So welcome to the Potter Virgin, episode 1, The Boy Who Lived. This is where an experienced Potter opens a world of fantasy for a Potter Virgin.
I'm Cassy, the Potter expert.
And I'm Theresa, the Potter Virgin.
At the top of our show, we just want to say that this is a really hard time for the Harry Potter community because J.K. Rowling sucks. She has said some views on transgender people that we do not agree with. We believe that trans women are women and trans men are men and non-binary people are valid. And it sucks that the author of this book series that I have read for 20 years and have loved is harming the transgender community and reaching out to her 14 million followers and having them see tweets that really are harmful to a lot of people. A lot of people have found really comfort in Harry Potter thinking that some of the characters are trans or are non-binary or asexual or gay or bisexual. And we as a Harry Potter community have really taken on those characters and developed them for ourselves. So yes, J.K. Rowling wrote the books, but we have taken over the books. Once an author has published it, it's up to the readers to interpret it, and we have interpreted the Harry Potter world much differently. So the books have no author. We are the ones who interpret the books, and that's what we're going to be doing here. I really like what Daniel Radcliffe had to say. He said, "Transgender women are women. Any statement to the contrary erases the identity and dignity of transgender people and goes against all evidence given by professional healthcare associates who have far more expertise on this subject than either Joe or I. If these books have taught you that love is the strongest force in the universe capable of overcoming anything, if it has taught you that strength is found in diversity and the dogmatic ideas of pureness lead to the oppression of vulnerable groups, if you believe that a particular character is trans, non-binary, gender fluid, or that they are gay or bisexual, if you found anything in these stories that resonates with you and helped you at any time of your life, that is between you and the book that you read, and it is sacred." I have been listening to Harry Potter and the Sacred Text podcast for years now, and I really do believe that these books are sacred, and I learn from them and I take things out of them, and I'm really excited to show Theresa the world of Harry Potter and how inspiring it can be, how there is a lot of issues within the books, but I believe in love, and I feel like that's the main purpose and main theme of these books. So here at the Potter Virgin, we support trans rights. Now welcome to the first episode of the Potter Virgin. Chapter 1, The Boy Who Lived. So I am Cassy, and the experienced Potter. I have loved the book series for almost 20 years. My mom read it to me out loud when I was a kid, and instantly I started loving it. I had my bedroom covered in all things Harry Potter, and it kind of looked like a shrine. I saw all of the movies on opening day. I bought books at midnight and read them in a day, and I have just been completely obsessed since I was about 8 years old.
And I'm Theresa, the Potter Virgin. I've had some exposure, but not much. My mom read all of the books when I was younger. They probably came out really big when I was a sophomore in high school. I have not seen any of the movies. I've seen like little tidbits of it here and there in passing in channel surfing, but I've never actually watched one of the films. I've never actually read one of the books. My knowledge of Harry Potter is super duper limited. I don't know a lot about it. It wasn't something that I was really interested in. My middle son has read several of the books, but hasn't shared the information with me, and I haven't asked him either. It's just not something that I ever got into growing up at all in high school.
I still can't believe that you've had very little exposure. It was like a cultural phenomenon that everybody loved Harry Potter.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and you just kind of ignored
especially
it.
with my mom reading all of the books. She worked at a library. She was a librarian, and she brought the books home. She even had them on audio, and I never listened. I never read. It's the strangest thing to have it going on around me and then not be a part of it.
That's so weird to me that you could have done that. But now we're here to introduce you to the Harry Potter books.
Yes.
And so we're going to be going chapter by chapter and discussing each chapter and letting Theresa in a little bit at a time on the world. And I am going to try my hardest not to give any spoilers. This is going to be very hard, but I think we can do it. I think I'm capable.
All right. I hope so. Well, I wouldn't mind the spoilers, but
no, you can't have any spoilers. Like, things just need to come up naturally. So if you're listening, don't spoil Harry Potter for Theresa.
Okay. Please don't.
So should we start looking at the chapter?
Yes, ma'am. I'm excited. Let's do this.
Okay. I'll let you go first.
Okay.
What is the...
It's a pretty heavy chapter. I think a lot happens in this chapter, and it gives information.
Yeah, well, they're trying to build some of the world of Harry Potter, so they had to give a lot of information in chapter 1.
Yeah, before this, one of my big questions about it was, because I knew that Harry was at this special school. I know that. I can't even tell you the name of the school. See, and I know he goes to this school, but I don't know where his parents were. I didn't know if he had parents or not. And so this chapter answered that question for me, right off the bat. So I was very pleased to get that answer to my question.
Yes, his parents are dead.
So as the chapter starts out, it opens with Mr. and Mrs. Dursley, and they're this super ordinary couple, and they pride themselves on being a super ordinary family who's very boring and, just likes things just so.
I think if someone describes themselves as perfectly normal, that means that they are absolutely not normal.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They're in denial.
Yes, very much denial.
If you have to keep pointing out how abnormal other people are, then it's just to hide your abnormalities.
Definitely.
I agree there. So, right off the bat, things just start to become unusual with the owls and things flying overhead. I find it curious that Mr. Dursley tries to pretend like it's not happening.
Yeah, he's just trying to ignore anything that's weird.
But then he's like, well, should I tell my wife? Should I not tell my wife? He's like, no, I can't tell her because she'll just become upset. And they most certainly can't bring up her sister. So I think that's unusual too. That's one of the questions that I have that we'll get to.
So I was thinking about that, the fact that he can't bring up his sister, or her sister. And I was thinking that maybe, she misses her sister so much that it's, painful to bring up. And that she talks about her sister and her sister's good-for-nothing husband. And so maybe, I don't...
So, at one point they were close.
Yeah, maybe they would have been on okay terms had she not got married.
Yeah, so that's one of my questions that I have here in the margin is why does Petunia Dursley not talk to Lily Potter anymore? When did that happen? Why did it happen? Why does it make her angry?
Mm-hmm. You'll definitely find out some of those answers, but some of those are still
in this
questions.
Book?
No.
Dang it. Okay.
You'll have to hold out for that answer for a while.
I'll have to table that one.
Yeah, but I wonder if maybe she just she kind of misses her sister and bringing up the fact that her sister married this guy that she thinks is really strange. Maybe that hurts her a little bit, and not wanting to bring her up.
because he's like, well, should we talk about her? Because he thought he heard the Potter name with the people talking. He's like, Mrs. Dursley pretended that she doesn't even have a sister because of her sister and her good-for-nothing husband.
Oh, the good-for-nothing husband. Okay, I want to talk about Dudley real quick.
Okay.
So, yes, he is Durnan and Petunia's son.
He is what we call a brat.
Yes. When it said that she wrestled a screaming Dudley into his high chair, and then also Dudley was now having a tantrum throwing his cereal at the walls. It just made me realize it's just another reason why I don't know that I want to have kids.
And then also later, Professor, you have to say her name for me, McGonagall. When she's talking with Albus Dumbledore, when she's talking with him, because he's like, yeah, we're gonna leave Harry here with the Dursleys, and she's like, what? Why? And she's like, with that awful child, because she had been sitting there all day long as the cat, sitting there watching the family, and she talks about how Dudley was fighting his mom all the way down the street and screaming that he wanted a sweet.
Yeah, that's just more reasons why I don't know that I want a kid.
Well, to me, it just, she's like, oh, we're so perfect, and Dudley is so perfect. And, he's not like Harry, because Dudley's more perfect than everybody else. That's not perfect. He's a freaking brat.
He definitely is. He's only 1 year old. He's like 1.5.
So see, I was confused because the way they talk about him, I thought he was older, but then when they're putting him in a high chair, I'm like, you don't put an older child in a high chair.
Yeah, no, he's about 18 months, I think, in this chapter. And I don't know, I've been around some kids, and I feel 18 months, they're not normally super brats yet.
Depends. They can be.
Yeah. I guess it depends on how they raised him.
Yeah. I think they indulge him way too much. I think it's, to achieve their perfection, to keep him quiet, they just give him what he is whining for.
But man, kids and their screaming and their tantrums, I don't know that I want to do that.
I would be very interested, and I don't know if this is ever going to be a part of the book in any of the future chapters or at all. I would be interested in hearing other people's perspective of the Dursleys, because, the mom is a gossip. She talks about everybody else's business. They refer to the neighbor as Mrs. Neighbor or Mrs. Next Door Neighbor or something like that. I would be interested to hear what other people think of the Dursleys.
Me too. I think it would be interesting to hear what their neighbors
think about them.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe we could get their perspective on a chapter. That would be interesting.
I'm going to write that down. I want to know.
Ooh, maybe someone could do some fanfic out there telling us what the perspective of the Dursleys is. Cloaks. Why do wizards dress in cloaks? That's I don't know.
Okay, well, before you go to wizards, I want to talk about Muggles.
Oh, yes, because you are just learning what the word Muggle
Well,
means.
I'm not sure that I know what a Muggle is. Based on chapter 1 only, Muggles are basically just non-wizards.
Correct.
So does that make them just humans? Does that make them mortals? Because I don't, or is it just non-wizards?
So do you think being a wizard makes you immortal?
Well, I mean, you have special powers.
I mean, you might see something like that later.
Okay, so for right now, Muggles are just non-wizards.
Yes, they're non-magical people.
Okay, writing that down.
Another just context thing is this is happening on November 1st.
Oh, did I know that?
It doesn't say that in the books, but I will say that Lily and James Potter were killed on Halloween.
Ew.
And so this is the day after they were killed. So celebration started. So Vernon Dursley is so upset with people dressing in weird costumes and stuff, and I wonder if it was the day before, if he would be so upset. Did he get upset on Halloween when people dressed weird?
I think his upset comes from his wife's anger at her sister, you know?
Well, yeah.
And he basically just hates anything that is not the same as him. So,
Yeah.
like on page 3, it says Mr. Dursley was enraged to see that a couple of them weren't young at all. Why, that man had to be older than he was and wearing an emerald green cloak. The nerve of him. So, like, if they were young kids, he would have been like, oh, okay, it's just a phase or whatever. You know, they're just being silly. But because this is an older person, he thinks that they should know better.
I wonder what they wear under the cloaks.
I don't know. Is it like
Are they
Irish kilt
naked
and
under
you don't wear
cloaks?
anything?
Yeah,
Or
are they
Scottish
naked
kilt?
under cloaks?
I'm getting my people mixed up. I don't know. I mean, because it doesn't refer to that at all.
It doesn't. And I feel like that's never really answered in the books. We'll talk more about cloaks as the books go on. But
I want to know.
yeah.
Oh, I do have a question about the cloaks, though you can't answer me, I don't think. But a question that I have about the cloaks is that they made very specific reference to the colors of each cloak. Like this one is wearing an emerald cloak, and this one has a purple cloak. So my question is what do the colors signify?
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of that before. Maybe they could signify something because it is very specific about the colors.
Yeah, and because at one point they're like, oh, and he was wearing a green one too, or he was wearing a cloak too, but his was green or something like that. I think it was the difference between McGonagall and Dumbledore.
Maybe like they could signify power or something.
Yeah.
If any of our listeners have any ideas, you should comment it on our Facebook page. Comment what your theory is about the cloaks and the colors. I don't know. So Dumbledore's is emerald, right?
I believe so.
Well, I think emerald green is just such a pretty color that maybe like green, and green often means like good. So maybe it's showing that he's really good, a good person. That we're just meeting first time in this chapter.
What I stopped myself from Googling was when Dursley was listening to the news, Mr. Dursley, when he was listening to the news, the reporter was talking about how there was a lot of shooting stars. And so instead of the rain I promised yesterday, they had a downpour of shooting stars. Perhaps people have been celebrating bonfire night early. It's not until next week, folks, but I can promise a wet night tonight. So I wanted to research bonfire night, if that was an actual thing or if that was just something in the book.
I think it might actually be a thing in England.
Is it like the burning of the harvest after they've picked it all?
You know, I have never looked that up to see if bonfire night was a thing.
Because like after you harvest everything, you have to get rid of like the rest that's there, and they generally burn that stuff. So I was wondering if that was what it is. If this is taking place in November, it's after they harvested everything.
Next episode, I will have research bonfire night for us.
All right.
But it is a real thing.
I was just wondering. When I was making my list of characters, I had the owls down as characters. So, like, are the owls all just the wizards? That would be my question.
You're definitely going to find more out about owls later. They're kind of they're a big deal in the wizarding world.
And why is Professor
McGonagall?
Yeah, why is Professor McGonagall a cat and not an owl?
So she can transform into a cat.
But why not an owl when everybody else is an owl?
Everyone else isn't an owl.
Oh. Well, in this chapter they are.
They don't transform into owls. Professor McGonagall, you'll learn out that later why she, or about her transforming into a cat. But yes, she just can transform into a
I
cat.
thought it was super hilarious when Dumbledore sits down next to the cat, and she's like, "How did you know it was me?" He's like, "I've never seen a cat sit so stiffly."
You know what? There was some other. Oh, Vernon asked if this is normal cat behavior for them to give stern looks. I'm like, yes.
Yes,
My
it is.
cat gives me stern looks all the time.
I just thought it was funny, and that kind of gives me like an insight into her personality too. I think she's definitely like a rule follower, doesn't like to go against the grain kind of thing.
Okay, so this brings up my who I think is a lesbian.
Okay.
Lesbians love cats. McGonagall can turn into a cat. Therefore, McGonagall is a lesbian.
That is so stereotypical, though, because then if you go by that, I'm a lesbian.
Well, okay. So, yes, not all people who love cats are lesbians.
Not all
I think
love
this is just like number one. It's true, not all lesbians love cats either. But this is just like I'm gonna point it out. I just think McGonagall is a lesbian.
Okay. Cat loving aside.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, if I could turn into any animal, I would turn into a cat.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So you would also turn into a cat?
And lay in the sun and just, relax all day? Sure.
Yeah. And then they can be, like, kind of mean to people, and it's fine.
Yeah, everybody loves them still.
Because they're so cute and fluffy.
Let's get into Voldemort. Okay. Let's get into you-know-who.
Voldy.
Because that's another huge part of this chapter.
Yeah, Voldemort is a huge part of the books. Like, you will definitely never mind that. Okay.
So McGonagall compares or, says that Dumbledore and Voldemort are kind of the same. Just Dumbledore does not use his powers for bad, because she said something, he's too noble to use them. So that's saying that Voldemort is, I wrote evil, and, Dumbledore's not evil.
And then it talks about the last 11 years, there's been hardly anything to celebrate.
Yeah. And now who is gone. And I think it's interesting that everybody's like, oh, he's gone. Where was he that he was so present? Like, was he hanging out with everybody before, and then all of a sudden he's not there? So what kind of power did he hold over everybody else? And then now they know that he's not there, so he's not holding this power against them. It would be interesting to find out, what role Voldemort played before he disappeared.
Well, I think that the phrase, there's been very little to celebrate for 11 years is very, like, telling about what Voldemort is like. I think that the world was a really bad place, and that's why there was so much celebration, that he was killed or destroyed by Harry.
So then my next question on that is, okay, so Harry is a baby. He wants to kill Harry. Why did he want to kill Harry? How did he know that Harry is this some sort of special kind of child that he would want to kill him? And if he knew that he was this special kind of child, why would he attempt to kill him when he couldn't? Like, it said Harry broke his powers when he tried to kill him. And so that's why he left, because his powers were broken. So why did he try to kill Harry if there was a chance that he wasn't going to be able to?
You will find that answer out.
Okay. In this book.
No.
Oh, well, dang it. I guess that's why there's 7 of them, huh?
It's true. All the answers are not in the first book. Well,
gosh darn it.
One thing I want to talk about. Harry's parents were killed at night, I would assume. That kind of what you get.
Yeah, like they were defenseless.
Yeah, and then the next day everyone is celebrating. So where was Harry for about 24 hours?
Yeah, that's my question. So, like, Voldemort just left him there, like, when he couldn't kill him, when his powers were broken? I think obviously Dumbledore had him. He knew where he was, had him, went and got him, and then gave him to Hagrid.
One thing that makes me think that that isn't right is Hagrid says, "No, sir, house was almost destroyed, but I got him out right before the Muggles started swarming around. He fell asleep as we flying over Bristol."
So was Hagrid like always there protecting him? Was he always watching out for him?
No, I think like he went to go and get him. How did Hagrid get there so fast? And where have they been for 24 hours? They're not that far away from each other. Like, England is pretty small. So why did it take 24 hours to drop Harry off at the Dursleys?
It's a good question. Writing it down.
Where were they? Like, I wonder if they had to go to the Ministry of Magic or something. But Hagrid, it sounds like he just took him from the house and decided to go. And then Dumbledore told him to drop off the Dursleys. So, like, how long did it take? How long was Harry waiting there before Hagrid picked him up?
Yeah, I mean, and then the whole thought that Harry slept all night on the stoop of this house before his aunt found him in the morning is, like, strange, too.
Okay, get into that. Dumbledore makes me so mad right here.
He's like, oh, I wrote him a letter. It's fine.
So he wrote him a letter and tucked it into his blanket and then left him on the cold doorstep for a few hours.
Well, I mean, if you read
he ring the doorbell?
If you read old fairy tales and stuff like that, that kind of crap happened all the time. They would leave babies on the doorstep and somebody would find them and it'd be okay.
Okay. But Dumbledore is like this super wizard and he knows that the Dursleys are not the best people, and he just decides to write them a letter, leave him on the doorstep in November for a few hours, and not even he could ring the doorbell.
Professor, I can't say her name. McGonagall. She has an issue with it. She brings it up. She's like, no, you cannot do this. And he's like, it's okay, I wrote a letter. But she doesn't fight him on it. She doesn't think anything more of it. She just lets him do it. But she cries about it too.
Yeah, I think
Hagrid cries as well.
There are reasons why Dumbledore did decide to leave them with the Dursleys, but I feel like sometimes family isn't the best people to take care of someone.
No.
Especially like a child. I think it's terrible that he left him there. And even if he left him there, he could have at least had a conversation with the Dursleys explaining the reasons, or he could have rang the doorbell so Harry didn't have to stay outside and cold.
Well, he could have rang the doorbell, but that part about having a conversation, I don't think would have ever happened because they would have never have sat down with him to talk about anything with him. So my thing is that Harry's a baby. He's little. I don't know how many months old he is, but he's a baby.
So Harry is a little over 1 year old.
Really? And he laid there in the basket and just hung out?
Right.
Okay. But anywho, right. Okay, so he's a little kid. He already has this huge reputation. So obviously people know about him in the wizard world. They know who he is, what he is. They obviously know this or they wouldn't be trying to protect him so much. There wouldn't be so many people around him trying to protect him. But then also on the Muggle side, he also has this reputation. His name is such a grossly ordinary name and, common name.
It's only common to the Dursleys. I don't think Harry is that. I don't know. I've never met a Harry. Maybe it's more common in England.
But it's he doesn't have a place in either world, almost. Well, no, he has a place in one world, but for whatever reason, he can't be there right now. Mm-hmm. Because why doesn't Dumbledore just raise him? Why does he have to take him to the Dursleys?
Dumbledore's a busy man.
Well, and
he doesn't want a kid.
He could stop eating lemon drops and just watch the kid.
Oh, okay, lemon drops. So I wonder if Dumbledore goes into Muggle stores and buys lemon drops in his full robes and stuff.
So that's, I think, what was so confusing to me, why I didn't understand what a Muggle was, because he's oh, it's a Muggle treat. But if wizards are not immortal, then they're still human.
Yeah, so Muggle just means non-magical.
But why is it oh, it's a Muggle treat? You're human too, you're just a wizard. It's not it's a Muggle treat.
Well, they're very separated worlds. They keep very to their own.
So then they're just as guilty as the Muggles for being separatists.
Well, the Muggles don't know about them.
How? Well, obviously the Dursleys do, but...
Well, the Dursleys do because of Petunia's sister, Lily.
But I would assume that many of the wizards had Muggle family members at some point.
Okay, so there are some Muggles who know about wizards, but like not the vast majority don't.
Those who know just don't like them, and the wizards don't like the
Well,
Muggles.
I think that you can't like take the Dursleys as the normal.
Okay. That's why I want to know more about them and like how other people view them.
There are some bad eggs in every basket.
Lily and James Potter are dead.
Yes.
Harry Potter lives. And when Voldemort tried to kill him, it left him with the scar on his forehead.
Correct. That scar will be very important.
Did Voldemort know that he left a scar or that he hurt Harry? Does he think Harry is dead? Or does he know that he's not dead?
Well, Voldemort isn't. He's like between living and dead. He's not like a ghost, though.
But did Voldemort leave the Potter's house thinking Harry was dead?
No. But like he didn't just leave the Potter's house. Like he got destroyed.
Okay. So
like he basically, like some people think he's dead.
Okay. Now there's a couple of other characters that I want to know just with a simple like yes or no. You don't have to spoil it for me.
Okay.
If whether or not I should keep them on my character list or we're never going to see them again. So there's Daedalus Diggle. Dumbledore says that Daedalus thinks he's responsible for the shooting stars in Kent.
It's Daedalus.
Oh, whatever. Daedalus.
Daedalus Diggle.
Daedalus Diggle. Will we see him again?
Yes.
Okay.
But he's not like a major character. But yeah, you will see him
again. Okay. And then Hagrid comes down the road to the Dursleys on a motorcycle. He says that he borrowed the motorcycle from young Sirius Black. Will we see Sirius Black again?
Yes, but not for a while.
Okay.
But yes.
And now Hagrid, so you brought up a good point. Hagrid. You brought up a good point where you're like, well, where was Harry this whole time? Was he with Hagrid? Hagrid brought him over, got him from the house, but he is described as being careless. Like Professor McGonagall's like, well, why is he with Hagrid? Hagrid is really careless. Why is he taking care of Harry?
Is there a question there?
Well, obviously Dumbledore trusts him, right?
Yes, Dumbledore does trust Hagrid.
But I'm guessing other people may not.
Yeah, you might say that.
Okay. And I really don't know what to make of Professor McGonagall. Like where
you said her name right.
I don't know what to think of her just yet.
You will see her later.
Okay.
Are you taking notes?
I am. If I didn't cross them off, we're obviously going to see them again. Will there be more about Lily and James Potter?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you have used Mr. Dursley's first name, but that's not given in the chapter 1.
Oh, it's not?
No. All I have is Mr. Dursley.
His first name is Vernon.
Vernon.
And Mrs. Dursley is Petunia.
Yeah, that one they did give, but I don't recall seeing Vernon anywhere. I circled all of the characters. All right. That's where I am.
After finishing chapter 1, what are you thinking about the book? Are you intrigued in reading more?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Especially like at the end, I liked how they closed chapter 1, where they're like, little Harry laid there sleeping, not knowing he was special, not knowing he was famous, not knowing he'd be woken up in a few hours' time by Mrs. Dursley's scream. That's very telling right there.
I would be terrified if this baby was on my porch left there. Please don't leave babies on my porch.
Wow. Don't say it out loud. Now it's going to happen.
We're going to rate one of the characters from 1 wand to 10 wands.
Okay, 1 wand.
So 1 wand meaning they're terrible.
Okay.
And 10 wands meaning they're awesome. And you have to give an explanation. So you choose one character to rate.
One character to rate. Just one. I want to pick Vernon Dursley. I am going to give him a rating of right down the middle, 5 wands. And my reasoning behind that is I'm not sure who he really is and if his hatred for everything wizard and all of this different stuff doesn't come from like what his wife is trying to feed him. I don't know if it's his own born hatred or if it's his wife's hatred, because there was times where he was like struggling with himself of like, should I bring this up? Maybe something's happening. Maybe something's going to come to our doorstep. And he doesn't bring it up because he's worried about how Petunia will take it. I'm holding out that Mr. Dursley is not going to be as terrible as he has behaved a little in this first chapter, and that if Harry's going to be with these people for a long time, that Mr. Dursley might be somebody who might come to his rescue.
Interesting. Okay, I am going to rate Dumbledore. I am going to give him 4 wands. I think it's terrible that Dumbledore just leaves him on the doorstep.
With such terrible people.
Yes, which terrible. Like, he knows that they are not good people, and he just leaves them on the doorstep. He couldn't ring the doorbell. I am not letting that go, that he couldn't ring the doorbell. Does he not know that doorbells exist, maybe? Couldn't he have, like, magically awoken during Mrs. Dursley or something? Really, Dumbledore? Really? You just let Harry sleep on the doorstep.
Is there a time a year that this is happening?
Well, it's in November.
But do we have, like, a century? Like, do we know?
Oh, okay.
Is this, like, now? Is it?
J.K. Rowling has said that it's in the 80s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Didn't the safe haven law apply in the 80s, too? I don't know. Like, every QT has a drop spot.
Does that exist in England?
I don't know.
I think it's just so messed up that Dumbledore just leaves Harry on the doorstep. And when Mrs. Dursley dropped the milk bottles, she drop them on Harry's head?
Probably. But he sounds like a pretty chill kid. He probably was just like, oh, what was that?
I just think that was definitely messed up. Like, what if Harry didn't sleep the whole time? Maybe they put, like, a sleeping charm over him or something.
Oh, possibly.
What if Harry had woken up when he was in Hagrid's arms flying over Bristol? What if he was, like, squirming and having a fit flying over Bristol?
So we'll have to see if my wand prediction with Mr. Dursley is correct.
Okay, so what do you think is going to happen in the next chapter?
Well, I'm hoping we find out about the Dursleys reading the letter, what they feel about the letter, and what they're going to do with Harry, if they're going to take care of him in a nice manner or not. Oh, and then, like, Dudley, he's probably going to be a little jerk.
All right, well, we shall see when we get to chapter 2, The Vanishing Glass.
Can't wait.
So if you want to subscribe to the Potter Virgin, we're on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Rate and review us. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at The Potter Virgin, or email us at thepottervirgin@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.
Yes, we would. Answer my questions.
No spoilers for Theresa. All right, let us know what you think of our show, and we will see you the next time.
Thank you.